Welcome in. This is your odds checker betting preview for this week's Sony Open. I'm Rick Gehman. That right there, it's Geoff Fienberg. And Jeff, here it is, the first full field event that we get in 2022. We were talking before we went hot here. This is fun. It's a little bit of a different beast from what we've seen over the past couple of betting opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at that odds checker board, three guys under 20 to 1. You have about 6 guys in total under 30 to 1. No super elite player here, although no disrespect, Cameron Smith just dethroned the dragon that is John Rahm. I spent the whole weekend, Rick, debating like maybe I need to reevaluate betting strategy for any tournament John Rahm is playing. Like seriously, dive deeper into potential prop markets. But hey, what do you know? He gets outdueled by Cameron Smith. But I love this field, the opportunities that I believe exist in sort of that 30 to 60 to 1 range. My favorite cards to build, to be perfectly honest.
Mine as well, and that's an area of the board that disproportionately wins. So we're going to get there in just a second, but you kind of foreshadowed the top of this board. Cameron Smith coming off of his victory last week, going back to a place that he's won at before, 11 to 1 at Caesars and Bet365. Those are the best two numbers available. Then Webb Simpson checks in, 16 to 1, same two sports books with that best number. Sung Jae Im at 18 to 1 at PointsBet, along with Hideki Matsuyama at 20 to 1. Same book, PointsBet. How do you assess the top of this board? And if you like the 30s and 60s so much, is there a bet to be made here?
So I didn't make a bet here, although, Cameron Smith, you almost just got to say congratulations to you. If you're going to go pull the Hawaii double, I'm going to miss it. Even I think the guys and gals that were able to hit Cam last week at 22 to 1, I don't think they're running to the window to pop an 11 to 1 this week, although he's won there before. And geez, the way he literally, it was like watching Jordan Spieth of like years ago, Rick. Like that's what it kind of felt like. It was artwork. So I'm not there, but if people are, bless them. Webb Simpson, always an incredible track record here. And Sung Jae Im, I could make the case. Hideki as well. I got really tempted with Hideki. And then you sort of look at the career Sony Open putting stats, and it scared me off him. So a lot of guys here, not many. And it's not too hard for me to say, you know what? I'm going up a level.
It would be one bet on Webb or one bet on Sung Jae for me. I think that's the only bet that I would make in this range. I'm not sure if it's going to happen yet because there are some interesting names coming up. Mark Leishman is 22 to 1. I think Corey Connors already catching a lot of steam, and you can see that just here on the odds checker grid. He's 18 to 1 at DraftKings, but 29 to 1 at FanDuel. I'm not sure that'll last with the steam that he's probably catching over the course of the next couple of days, Jeff. And then our defending champion, Kevin Na, 30 to 1. That's kind of your next tier of golfer.
So, like a lot of people, Rick, I know we're big fans. Corey Connors, he's a guy I can't get my eyes off of. There is that 29 to 1 available at FanDuel right now. You mentioned that 18. It's almost like DraftKings took a Cam Smith beating with their odds as we're staring at them using this odds checker grid. So if you're, beholden to DraftKings, maybe just wait it out like a day or two as they realize no one's betting Mark Leishman at 16 to 1, and I wonder why. Yeah. But yeah, no, that Corey Connors staring at the grid, the 29 to 1 at FanDuel right now, that's one that I'm confidently going to say you'll probably see on my betting card.
Yeah, best number in the industry by a pretty significant margin. He's exciting, obviously, and he has indeed putted well at Waialae in his career. I'm willing to bounce back on Abraham Ancer, someone that I avoided last week because I thought it was probably one of the worst setups for him on the PGA Tour, and he played like it, finished down near the bottom of the leaderboard. But this is probably one of the better setups for him, and there is a bit of a discrepancy across the board. DraftKings 22 to 1, but if you go over to Caesars, you can get a 35 to 1 number. That's a lot more interesting to me.
Yeah, so that's another one that I have actually played. I have not played the Connors yet. I'm planning to, but as we have recorded, I have bet Abe Ancer this week. You sort of mentioned last week not being a spot for him. And I think a lot of people sort of waiting in the weeds maybe to play him next week at a place he's so fantastic at PGA West. But I'm expecting him to pop a week early here, Rick. He might not be the best choice to go off of maybe on this sort of trend setting, but we have seen a lot of history with guys that did play the Tournament of Champions come over into Sony, win, I think, 4 or 5 of 6 of the last 6. So that seems to be something we can go on. And historically, like Kevin Na last year, they didn't have to play fantastic or even very well at the Tournament of Champions to show an ability to have maybe just used that as a total tune-up in preparation for having a great week at the Sony. There's a lot of guys that can check that box this week, and my favorite of all of them is Abraham Answer.
These two courses on the Hawaii swing are so different. If a guy plays poorly at the Plantation course, you might be like, oh man, Waialae's the perfect setup for him because of how unique and how different they are. But Geoff, this is a range that right out of the gate today, you were loving. I mean, Russell Henley is here. Taylor Gooch is here. This is a range that it seems like you're very excited about. Tell us who in this area you're excited about.
We'll go a little bit farther. I'm staring at Taylor Gooch, Rick. And I can tell you, I saw a lot of people, even myself, thought about betting him last week in and around that 40-1 range. And he played well. He played last week. He played fine. He lost strokes putting in 3 of his 4 rounds. He is a career, long range, above an average putter. So that's something I could expect to flip instantly. But I would rather how do you put this? I think there's value in essentially getting close to the same number on him in a field that might be significantly bigger than last week, but it doesn't have those like 25 guys or 20 guys. You're like, no, those guys are for sure better golfers than Taylor Gooch.
Right. Yeah, no, it is an interesting dynamic. Many more golfers, but not the firepower at the top. And Gooch was essentially your fall MVP. I'm excited to see what he does as the calendar turns. I'm a bit excited about Maverick McNeely. He's 55-1. He is someone that you can see the trajectory here, Geoff. It is up and to the right. He's starting to figure it out on the PGA Tour. He's becoming not only more consistent, but he's contending more frequently. This is a course you don't have to be long at. He's 55-1 at FanDuel. That's the best number available on him. So that gets me a little bit excited.
And I'll say this. I like Maverick McNeely a lot, and I'm trying to establish whether I really like him this week or I like him like long range for the season, because I catch myself just as sometimes you have these degen tendency as bettors here and we try to rein them in, but it's like I pick a team to say win the World Series. Then it gets to opening day and I'm like, oh, I picked them to win the World Series, or I picked them to win the division. Like I got to ride them on opening day. So I'm trying to find that balance with some of these players like Maverick McNeely, who I'm expecting to make big turns, or not even big turns, but, make serious progress this year and find their way into a winner's circle. So I got to just figure out if that's the move for me this week. A move that I have made in this range, Jason Kokrak, obviously betting on the ceiling, did not look very good last week at all. In fact, last place, listen, I got distracted later in the night. I want to just confirm he was last place.
It was dead last, Geoff. That is correct.
So, dead last. But we talk about this and we'll talk about it all spring and summer and into the fall again, Rick. When we're making outright bets, you're just sort of betting on the ceiling. And if Kokrak misses the cut or comes 7th place or even 4th place, if I'm not T5ing it, it's the same as a miscut. And I look at this field, I look at a 55-1. The guys won 3 times last year. This is a layout that he can just, hopefully get hot with the putter, but, just get hot with those irons and do what he does best, in my opinion, and really take advantage of a course like this. I'm acknowledging that there is a floor in play, but at 55-1 on an outright betting situation, I'm in.
Yeah, you're right. Him finishing 38th and 6th paid the same amount last week, especially if you had his outright number and you didn't back it up with any each way or anything like that. These are the types of fields, Geoff, that when you get into 60, 70, 80, 90, triple digits, there's names here. I always battle at myself and say, can these guys actually win? Like, I'm excited about Aaron Rye because he's a great ball striker and he played well in the fall, but can he really win? And Denny McCarthy's the best putter on planet Earth, and he looked better in his final couple of events. He probably didn't want the fall to end, but can he win? These are the questions that I'm always battling, and I don't necessarily know how to answer them.
Yeah, that's always a part of it. And I think when you get to a field like this and you're like, I don't know if Cameron Smith and Webb Simpson don't play well, and even their win equity shouldn't scare you per se if you wanted to bet a guy. But that's why, I haven't made the move, but a guy like Sung J M, looking at that odds checker grid, Rick, there's a 70. I mean, we were throwing stones at DraftKings before, but they got a 70 on Siwoo while FanDuel's throwing a 46.
Correct.
I mean, that is crazy. And that in a nutshell is what makes, using the grid so advantageous. But Siwoo brings win equity to the table, in my opinion. Even a guy like Joel Dahmen, I think this week, Rick, 75-1. And that's a number you shop because there's 50s and there's 60s. But a 75-1 on a guy like Joel Dahmen, the way he can strike that ball, it almost sets up his game almost sets up perfectly for Waialae.
Yeah, it does. And his win came at a coastal tropical course, kind of like what he's going to see this week. But you're right. When you actually use the grid on a regular basis, you realize how valuable it is, because even the next guy, Brendan Steele, who's been great at Sony, probably should have won this a couple of years ago, 80-1 at DraftKings, 55-1 at FanDuel. I mean, there's just massive discrepancies. I probably draw my line in this range here. Maybe it's Keegan Bradley, maybe it's Denny McCarthy, but is it worth going further down the board here on an outright wager?
Yeah, listen, I always like to have fun with the, find me 100-1 winner. Right in front of the 100-1, you're seeing 90-1 on Chris Kirk. Again, this is the books are all over the place.
Over the place.
I mean, we do this regularly, and by regularly, like 40 straight weeks. This feels like the discrepancy is much larger than we normally see. I don't know if all of the year is going to be like this, or this is just the first full event of the season, and a lot of books are just shaking out their golf market cobwebs.
Yeah. I think it's that. I think it's also, and every time new states come on, everybody wants to get a little bit more competitive, or some states will try to be more, or some books will try to be more competitive. So it is always worth shopping right now specifically. And as we continue to roll out more states, I think you're only going to see the grid be more valuable.
Yes. And that is a great point. And we can be the winners of the competition and the competition for our money in this ultra competitive marketplace. And, this is also something else to consider, because let's just deal with the realities that we're in. The grid is still amazing, even if the book that you have access to isn't on the grid. It lets you know how fair a number, how great a number, how bad a number your streeter is posting. So the grid is literally evergreen appointment viewing for me. I don't know. I didn't mean to turn our Sony show into us putting so much air into the odds checker grid, but if you're not trying to track where that best number is, hitting golf winners hard enough. Like, it's hard enough. So when you do it, let's just get the biggest number we can.
Yeah, no, I feel you, brother. So how big is your card for this week? You're going to be focused in that 30 to 60 range. Maybe you'll throw a 90-1 at Chris Kirk. How many golfers are we talking about in this first full field of the year?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to have like a 5-man card. On the low end would be Connors, just in front of that 30, all the way up to probably those 70-1s. Yeah, Connors, Answer, Kokrak, and I'm staring at a few more names, be it Sung J, Dahmen, Power. You check the article, my picks will be in there.
There you go. I'm trying to figure out the top, but obviously Connors. I'll get to Maverick McNeely. We'll figure out the rest of the board. Yeah, I think I draw the line before Denny McCarthy, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to see him win. But Geoff, we're in for it this week, and then we will turn towards California. And you're right. Maybe everyone's waiting on Answer for next week, but maybe he takes advantage of it this week. You can follow Geoff on Twitter at GFienberg17. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been your odds checker betting preview for this week's Sony Open. Good luck.